What is the fascination with in the environment and environmentally based issues? Of course, it all started over the last few days at the Queen's Jubilee when climate protesters were dragged from the streets during Trooping of the Colour. You remember that? That, of course, caused a bit of a furore. Then on Saturday evening, when the nation was enjoying the Platinum Party at the Palace, the Duke of Cambridge himself got involved.
Today, in 2022, as the Queen celebrates her Platinum Jubilee, the pressing need to protect and restore our planet has never been more urgent. But, like her, I am an optimist.
He is an optimist. I'd like to think I'm an optimist as well. Prince William urging action during that segment dedicated to the environment. Featured Sir David Attenborough on that as well. Just when you thought that might be the last we hear on green issues this week, up popped Andy Burnham and 8 more Metro mayors calling on the government to help them reach net zero before 2050. In fact, I think Manchester want to get there 20 years earlier than the national target. Why are you not buying into the green agenda then? 03444991000. Prince William is. Andy Burnham is. Why are you not? James Skeet is a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, who's with us now. James, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Ian. Good to speak to you.
And you too. Nice to have you with us. I mean, there's a lot of voices now chiming in on this. That's great, I guess, from your perspective. You know, high-profile people, Prince William and Andy Burnham, etc., and various other characters. Greta, who's kept this going for a lot of years. Is it enough? Is enough action happening now?
Well, obviously, I appreciate the sentiment from Prince William, but as ever, with where the ruling class is concerned, it's always warm words and very little action. Actually, while that Jubilee was occurring, the government utilised it as an opportunity to rubber stamp a new gas field in the North Sea called Jackdaw. So it served as a useful distraction. And ultimately, this shows where the reality sits, that these people have no intention of dealing with this crisis.
I saw somebody wearing a T-shirt. I don't think it was necessarily from Just Stop Oil. It could have been a similar affinity group or something of that order that had a sign that said we've got like just over 1,000 days left. Are you familiar with that stat?
Yes. So that's in line with what Sir David King, Chief Scientific Advisor to multiple UK governments, was saying, that we've got 2 to 3 years to determine the future of humanity.
And what happens then? I mean, what if we miss this vital tipping point?
So at the present time, it's looking like we're going to have the Arctic ice is going to be gone by around 2035. It looks like that we're heading towards a tipping point with regards to the Amazon. Once 20% of the Amazon is cut down, the whole thing dies because it's a self-sustaining system, and we've cut down about 17%. So basically, we're setting ourselves up. Basically, the world isn't going to end at that point, but it will set in motion a critical climate collapse that we have no opportunity to save ourselves.
Right, so that's the sort of irredeemable point, if you like. We won't be able to, like right now we can do things, but once we hit that point, we'll no longer be able to.
That's correct, yes. So I'm part of Just Stop Oil. We are demanding that there be no new investment in oil and gas in the United Kingdom. The government at the current time are ploughing ahead with 42 new oil developments in the North Sea, and that is counter to what the International Energy Agency are telling us, what the UN are telling us, that any new investment in fossil fuels at this time is a death sentence for you, me, and everyone that we care about. And we're demanding a just transition for everyone in those industries.
Why does, as far as I can see, you might be able to correct me, James, why is there no government anywhere in the world, even think of all the sort of more left-wing governments who might ordinarily be more sympathetic, why is there none of those governments anywhere on the planet who's advocating or agreeing with the seriousness of what you're telling us here?
Because they're complicit. They're beholden to the same financial interests that are going to kill us all.
But if we're talking about, I mean, we know that governments are capable of doing big things. We just had a lockdown for 2.5 years, so they can move into action if they really think there's a reason to do so. But even, I always seem to cite Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, who scored a lot of house points over COVID, etc. You might think that she'd be listening to you guys, and I'm sure there's a Kiwi version of what you guys are advocating here, and saying, actually, yeah, that's what we need to do. There's not a single government agrees with anything you've said.
They do what's profitable, Ian.
But why would they do that? We're talking about Armageddon here. We're not talking about...
care about us. They care about propping up the billionaire class. And like,
well, they don't really, though, do they? There'd be no point in them doing that, because we're not going to have a planet to live on. So it wouldn't make any sense.
Exactly. But they're more intent in pooping in a gold toilet for a few more years than ensuring a livable future for our kids.
But there's no one, not a single leader in the world agrees with anything you guys say.
Oh, they say that they agree. I mean, they make all sorts of positive proclamations, say at COP26, that the UK is leaders on climate. But when push comes to shove, they authorize new gas developments. So we know who they work for. Priti Patel accepted a £100,000 donation from an oil baron recently. We know who they work for, and it's not you, it's not me, or any of your listeners.
But I mean, Priti Patel won't be there in 8 months' time. Somebody else will be there, and they might have a different idea of things. But isn't it curious, though, that, I mean, the idea they prop up some millionaire, I mean, really? Is that the whole reason the planet is functioning this way? Because of a few rich people? I mean, that sounds like a sort of Ben Elton conspiracy theory.
Oh, come on. You know how it works.
But it'd be futile. There'd be no point in being a billionaire, because you'd be living on a barren wasteland of doom. There'd be no planet here to live on.
I'm glad that you can see that, but we're led by a cabal of sociopaths and psychopaths who do not care.
Not one person, though, James, agrees with you. Like Jacinda doesn't agree with you.
People agree
the
with
Marxists in Venezuela don't agree with you. They're churning up oil like there's no tomorrow.
The entire scientific consensus reinforces what I'm saying here, Ian. I mean, you look outside, everyone can see what's happening. We had 3 named storms in a week in the United Kingdom recently. Germany was underwater recently. London was underwater recently. We hit 49 degrees C in British Columbia. It's supposed to have a top temperature like 16 degrees. It was 30 degrees above average in the Arctic, 40 degrees above average in the Antarctic. We're seeing complete civilizational collapse here.
Yeah, but every 1,500 years or so, we see that as well, don't we? Before man even existed, we saw floods and fires.
That's not true. That's a complete lie.
It kind of is, isn't it? We've had inclemency and fluctuating weather since the planet existed.
Yes, the last time that carbon emissions reached this point, there was what was called the 5th mass extinction event on this planet. We're now in the 6th mass extinction. So what we're seeing at the current time is crops failing, world round, and when crops fail, people starve and civilizations collapse. We're looking at 1 billion climate refugees by 2050. Everything that we care about is at risk here, and we need to be taking significant
I hear that, but are you still not even parking the idea that the planet is designed to appease a few billionaires, which I don't think anybody really believes? I mean, of course, we know if you're a rich old duffer, you do well out the thing. However, I mean, that versus Armageddon, you might think at least one leader would say, yep, we agree with Just Stop Oil, and at least one scientist would be standing up there on the plinths with you, tying themselves to the railings.
There's plenty of scientists tying themselves to railings, Ian. You need to do better research, mate.
Well,
honestly, I'm not surprised to hear this from someone who ultimately works for News Corp, Murdoch-owned operation.
One of the few net zero buildings in the entire capital. But thanks for the education. Listen, James, it has been interesting. Thank you, sir.